Hi, my name is David Fontaine. I was born in Montreal, moved to Alberta when I was 6. Um, Basically, to start, I was all about planning in high school. I had my goal set out. I wanted to become a chef. I was so driven and I had planned it out to the T. Um, and I was realizing throughout this course that planning is an important part of leadership, but what is more vital um, is that a leader needs to be able to adapt to the plans. Um, Let me just backpedal here a bit. So when I was in Olds, right out of high school, I was pursuing the goals of being a chef, and I really was driven and motivated, and I had my plan worked out perfectly. But nonetheless, I ended up getting a severe injury a few weeks before the end of the program. This kind of spun my plans into a 180. For a year and a half, I was in physio, and I was just I was struggling to find a new goal. Then I went to the college in Lethbridge. I was planning. I made another big plan. I did 2 years at the college. Then I wanted to go to UBC and do another 6 years there. And I was working as hard as I possibly could. And by the time I got to UBC, I was amazed. I worked hard. I think I had like a 3.8 or 3.9 GPA. I was so glad to be in. Um, I had a brutal time just enrolling in the classes, let alone when I was in them. I ended up being wildly unhappy after about 4 months. I was really struggling with just the lifestyle and everything, and it kind of spun my plans into a 180 again, to the point where I moved home. Started going back to my old trainer when I was working, and he convinced me to take the exercise science program, and he would mentor me. So that's how I got here. But mostly I'm telling you this is to say that plans go to hell. And this requires an adaptable leader. I think of the metaphor as running on a beach. You think of how your foot slides in the sand and how your brain can easily react and adapt and push you forward. So that's how I imagine how these leaders adapt that quickly. Look at Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King. These leaders were extremely wise. They knew when to act, when to react, and how to inspire people to follow them through their individuality. That's a thing I've learned quite significantly, is that leaders are very individual, to the point that they inspire others to be like them or just to follow them because they are so individual. Here, let me explain. I mean, look at Greek philosophers. I'm thinking particularly like Nietzsche, a postmodern philosopher. He was an existentialist, a nihilist. He thought that none of the previous methodologies fit the world as it is today. I think this can be said for leadership strategies. Nietzsche would urge us to criticize or reject wisdom from the past. This would include philosophy, religion, social norms or taboos, and then he would replace these existing truths or beliefs with ever-changing and ever-evolving approaches to life. This kind of returned to Socrates, in a sense, to know nothing with any certainty. You can see this adaptability in practice with many of the leadership profiles in the book, many of the profiles that we've read. A good leader thinks. He or she critically analyzes before she acts. This can be done in a variety of ways. A leader must play to their strengths. If he becomes apt at playing to his own strengths, then I believe that he can play others to their strengths. I believe that a leader can see the strengths and weaknesses of himself and others and put them in positions where they can succeed. That's something that I've really learned so far in this class. Because at the end of the day, you cannot use what you don't have. If you're cautious, be cautious. If you're outgoing, be outgoing. If you're shy, be shy. An example of this I think of is me and a trainer, Kendall, at Chaos Conditioning, the gym I'm mentoring at. We get through similar outlooks through opposite means. I typically favor apathy, individualism. Basically, it lets me effortlessly weather any storm simply by not caring. I'm not judgmental or disparaging, and it lets me focus on what I need to accomplish. Kendall uses empathy but accomplishes the same tasks. And I think as a leader, it's great to have these contrasts instead of trying to generalize your skills. All of these skills that you may be lacking can be built upon. If one cannot be strong himself, cognitively, physically, emotionally, I don't think you can expect others to be envious. I don't think you can be expect others to get inspired by your behaviors. Um, I believe for a leader that perseverance is vital. I believe that they need to continue a course of action without regard to discouragement, opposition, or any previous failures. They need to learn how to be stubborn in a sense and inspire others to push through. Um, it kind of reminds me of when I was in physio, when I was injured. I had a year and a half, 3 plastic surgeries, yada yada. I never really complained. I showed up to physio every day, smile on my face. Otherwise, I didn't see a point to complaining. I literally had one option to move forward. I didn't find that very difficult. I found it very mindless because if your back's against the wall and you only have one option, there isn't much thinking to do. I believe that this trait in a leader would be amazing. It's something that I need to work on. I need to be able to see the entire playing field. I need to be able to see things from every different angle. Because I've learned in psych that the more black and white you see things, the more wrong you typically are. Because there's always 1,000 shades of gray. So a leader needs to see the entire playing field, but can also boil it down to a similar position that I was in when I was recovering from my injury, where it becomes as simple as moving forward towards a goal, one step at a time. I think a leader needs to be able to create common goals that are this simple and mindless that people can just do. That a leader needs to work on himself individually, making him the best version he possibly can be, whether it be through knowledge or behaviors or anything, just to fix skills that he may be lacking and to improve skills that he is already adept at. Um, and these leaders, they need to be able to inspire. They need to be able to adapt. They need to be able to be apathetic when it calls for it. They need to be able to be empathetic when it calls for it. And there are definitely some skills that I need to practice, especially with empathy, as well as patience. I struggle with putting people in situations where they succeed, because if they fail initially, I seem to put them in situations where they can't do any damage, which isn't the same as putting them in situations where they'll succeed. Anyways, that's my talk. It's just a bit about my past, some things that I can improve at. Yeah, I really learned a lot from my paper, my philosophy of behavior paper, whatever the last one was. And I think you guys got the gist of it in this video.